Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have a pretty good upload to share with you. I've got a couple of encounters. I've got an update from our friend Bo. It's not really a major update, but it is pretty terrifying and pretty interesting if you ask me. Before we get into today's upload, though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All the links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that, they just don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything that you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. Last but not least, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 and 2, the audiobook, is available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, written by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. The links to those are in the description as well. Now, I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Today's first encounter is a terrifying, possible Skinwalker encounter. My mother had met a jerk of a guy that I absolutely couldn't stand. However, she liked him and there wasn't much I could do. Eventually, my mom decides she wants to move in with him to Tucson, Arizona, where he lived from Miami. I was 16, so I didn't have much to say. At this point in time, things were pretty bad. I hated the new school, hated the new house, hated everything. However, there was a silver lining. I made a friend who we'll call Jasmine. Now, Jasmine wasn't like normal girls. She wore extremely unique attire, had this amazing accent, and just had this whole air about her that got your attention. Now, Jazz was a big nature lover. Scared me half to death once when she brought a scorpion in her hand so I could see it. Freaked me out seeing that giant big black thing, till she told me the rule of size with scorpions and venom. Anyway, Jazz and I were as close as you can get, not lovers, mind you. I was still with my ex back then. We saw each other as family. I often hung out with her, but never really met her parents. So one day, Jazz is at my house and we're watching TV. Suddenly, we hear this awful scream from afar. My room and window are basically positioned next to the main door, so the window looks outside. Outside, we lived in a house in one of those streets that ended in a huge circle of houses. As we look out, there is a house directly in front. We see a girl yelling and slamming herself into a parked car window. We didn't know what was what, but it was freaky because she was hysterical. Suddenly this guy comes out, yelling something to her, and she just darts off toward my house. She runs over and just slams into the front door so hard Jazz and I looked at each other and said, "Shit, she got in." She didn't, of course. We closed my window, backed away, and went back to TV. Fast forward a week and cops show up at our door. My mom answers, then calls me over. The cops ask if I saw anything because of my window placement. On that same day, the girl freaked out. I told them everything that I just said to you guys. When my mom asks what's it about, the cop told us the girl was our neighbor's daughter. They fought over her boyfriend. The dad locked her phone in a car, and you know the rest. The thing is, she never went home. The dad thought she ran to her boyfriend's, but eventually he called to ask, and he mentioned he had never saw her. So she's a missing person. Great, as if Tucson isn't bad enough already. Fast forward again. Tucson is hot. I mean, horribly hot this time of the month. And where I lived, my bus to the school didn't come, so I had to walk. It was about a 30-minute walk every day. My mom was an alcoholic, so forget rides that early, and the same back. I liked the walks, though, because halfway I'd meet up with Jess, and we would go the rest of the way. So one day I'm walking to school, all great, when I get this weird chill down my back. It almost felt like a drop of cold water hit me. I thought it was about to rain, so I look up. Nope, the clear skies. As I look up, I then get this sensation I really can't describe. It felt like I was a kid sneaking somewhere I shouldn't be, and I'd just been caught. And it was at that moment where you and the person who caught you lock eyes and you know your history. I looked down real slow, and from my left peripheral, something was there. The street is barren, right side pure desert, left side is all cul-de-sac houses. As I slowly look over, my eyes are adjusting. Basically, there's a house, and behind it an air conditioner. The big thing with the fan that's on a concrete bed. The house was casting a shadow over this air conditioner, and my eyes are trying to see it properly. I used to wear glasses back then. As I began to focus, my body shook like I was being electrocuted. I actually felt my mouth drool and my eyes tear up. I saw a head. It was just a head, but it was to the left of the generator, facing the back of the house, nearly at the top. I knew it wasn't floating, more like just peeking out from behind the generator. The shadow was over its face, and its hair just dropped like it was soaking wet and really dirty. I didn't move. I felt like at that moment we made eye contact. It was like looking at a bear. I didn't want to move. I didn't know if it would chase me or what. I just stared at it, shaking. Suddenly a hand comes over my shoulder and I hear a soft hi. It was Jazz. It snapped me out of whatever that was. I looked over to her, and she had this look of shock and horror on her face, like she saw a dead body. I thought she saw it as well, so I asked, "Did you see it? Jazz, did you see it?" Jazz just nodded slowly and replied, "See what?" I pointed at the air conditioner, and there was nothing. I mean nothing. The shadow wasn't even cast on the same goddamn side. I told Jazz what had happened, and she told me that she didn't see anything. When I asked why she looked like that, she replied it was because from 3 blocks off she was calling my name, and I was standing there, motionless, staring into nothing. When Jazz finally snapped me out of the trance, she said my eyes were bloodshot, like I had been not blinking for a while. I was pale and soaking in sweat. I told her everything, and we didn't go to school. She grabbed me by my wrist and dragged me to her house. This was the first time I had ever been into her house, which sucks. It had to be this way. Her house was amazing. It had this crazy good smell, and there was all these awesome decorated ceramics all around and cool pictures of what I later learned were Navajo. Jazz took me into the living room, told me to sit on the couch and wait. She then went into the house. I waited for about a half an hour. I could hear a faint screaming in a language I knew wasn't English, until finally a man walks in. He had long hair, braided, looked like he had just come out of the movies. Dude was incredible. He looked me over. I was actually still a bit pale and shaking. He then smiled, extended his hand, and told me, "Let's go eat." So we went into the kitchen. I eat and tell him the story. And Jazz tells him about the girl from the car and the whole missing thing. Cop spoke to her as well, since I told him she was with me. Here's the thing. She got really riled up and said a long word, which I will not repeat, even if I could. Her dad became furious. It was like a white guy saying the N-word in the middle of a Black History lecture. He was beyond pissed, and told her never to say that again and not to mention anything anymore. So she leaves, and he stays with me. He doesn't say a word while I eat. Neither do I. I'm in their house still. Dad said I'd be sleeping over. He said, "You'll sleep over tonight." Literally, I didn't ask. I called my mom. She didn't care. Whatever. I won't lie. It was really fun. Jazz showed me the awesome house. They had 2 Malamutes that were huge and adorably fluffy and playful. We had an awesome time until it turned dark. So, Jazz and I are just chilling in the backyard with the dogs, playing. Everything is great until suddenly it starts to goddamn snow. This may sound weird, but it does snow in Tucson, apparently. This was my first time seeing snow, so it was awesome. I looked up at the little snowflakes falling from above, but as I did, I got that same feeling from before. that drop of cool water on my back, that unwelcoming. Jazz's backyard is like any other, walled off by wood with some tall shrubbery covering the wooden walls. My back was to the house, but as I was looking forward, I saw it. This time, the face was easier to see. It was just wet and pale and dirty. I swear to you that I can't remember the features. When I try, I get this weird image, like a dirty, smiling porcelain mask with black holes where the eyes should be. It was tall, really tall, and it just stood behind the shrubbery still. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't feel anything. I just saw it, and the snowflakes falling between us. Then the Malamutes went insane. They howled like wolves and snarled. I couldn't take my eyes off the face, but my peripheral I could see the two just crouching and snarling. It felt like I was submerged in deep water. That feeling of heaviness and that horrible fear when you look down into the deep black and you don't know what could come up at any moment. I just stared at it until suddenly I felt like something, some sort of warning, like I knew whatever was in the shrubs was about to run out. So I slowly backed away, trying to feel for the sliding door I knew was behind me. Weird thing is, as I backed away, I could hear the dogs in front of me, but I couldn't see them. They never moved, but weren't in my line of sight anymore. As I backed away, I felt the urge to run, like time was running out, so I told myself, count to 3. I got to 3. As I was about to turn around and run, I feel a sharp pain on the left side of my cheek and blink. As I blink, I'm suddenly being held by Jazz's dad. I don't think you understand. I blinked, and Jazz's dad was holding me. The house was in front of me. Behind me was the driveway. I look back, and the dogs are howling at something. As I'm about to look up at the street, the dad covers my eyes, talking in a weird language again, probably cursing me out. He brings me to the house. Jazz is hysterically crying and screaming my name in her room. Her dad carries me into the house, shuts the door, then takes me to Jazz's room, where she hugs me like I had just died or something. I don't know what happens after. I just woke up in her bed, went downstairs, and they were both there. It was Saturday. I stayed over on a Friday. Her dad refused to tell me what the hell that was or what he didn't want me to see. It was only later that day Jazz told me I sleepwalked right out of the house and into the front yard where I just stood there. Jazz woke up because she felt like she was drowning and screamed because when she looked at the street, she saw that same girl from before standing outside at the street, staring at my dumb ass, stepping backward toward her like I was afraid of her dad, who was in front of me. By that time, her dad was already outside grabbing me and hit me when he saw I was about to dart backwards. I told her that to this day I still don't remember going to bed. I don't remember what we did throughout that day. Apparently, we didn't play in her backyard. She doesn't have a backyard. She doesn't have 2 dogs. Her dad had 2 Malamutes when he was a kid, but died decades ago. I spent a little more time with them. Her dad gave me some incense and these other weird twig things he told me to bury in my front window and burn the incense in my room before I bed. I also got a nice bowl that my mom shattered in one of her drunken fits. The whole thing never really happened again. Spent 5 months in Tucson. Jazz and I became close. Eventually, I moved back to Miami. We lost contact then. Apparently, she moved to Alaska. I still think of her, though, on occasion. Well, I'd be out with friends walking home or just alone in the dark. I actually hear barking. It's far off, so it could be a neighbor, but I swear I know that barking. It doesn't really scare me either. In actual, glad to hear it. Other weird twig things he told me to bury in my front window and burn the incense in my room before bed. I also got a nice bowl my mom shattered in one of her drunken fits. The whole thing never really happened again. Spent a good 5 months in Tucson. Jazz and I became really close. Eventually, I moved back to Miami. We just lost contact then. Apparently, she moved to Alaska. I still think of her often on occasion. Well, I would be out with friends, walking home, or just alone in the dark. I actually hear barking. It's far off, so it could be a neighbor, but I swear I know that barking. It doesn't really scare me either. I'm actually glad to hear it. I don't feel very alone when I do. I know this story was wrong. As I said, it's chronological. It all happens and continues to happen, even years later. Some of it feels connected. Other stuff is just bad luck. I really don't like talking about this. It makes me feel like I bring something back with me. However, there is a part of me that feels relieved by the thought of people knowing I don't feel so alone. Years later, I told this story to a friend in Brazil. He's big on Vegas because he's a pilot and told me he knew some Navajo back then. He said what I saw might be what's called a skinwalker. The reason he says this is because it's believed for them to possess you, they need to make eye contact. And that's what it did the first time I saw it. Apparently, Jazz's dad broke the bond before it took hold. I honestly don't know. I hung with Jazz and her dad multiple times, and one day he was very frank with me and just said, some things we simply aren't allowed to talk about with people outside of our culture. It's not safe for us. The Navajo call them Yi-na-da-lushi, which translates, with it, he goes on all fours. My sincere apologies to any native people who may be listening for the mispronunciation of your language throughout this. For the Navajo people, witchcraft is just another aspect of their spirituality, and one of the paths people can choose to walk. There are many other Native American tribes, such as the Pueblo, Apache, Hopi, Ute, Choctaw, Ojibwe Indians, who also have their own versions of Skinwalker with different names. For example, the Ojibwe call them bear walkers, while the Choctaw call them Ishkatini. But whatever their name, each version includes a witch who chooses to walk a malevolent path. This type of person, however, is not limited to Native American cultures. It's also found in many other cultures throughout the world. For example, in Mexico, they are called the Nagul. In Australia, Kurdayacha, if male, Il Primja, if female. In Hawaii, Kupa. In Russia, Le Vowaklak, or Badark. Here in New Zealand, we would call them Tipu. With what small bit of information I give you, what I know. Today's second part of the upload is a little different. It's someone sharing their grandmother's native tradition and lore with us. My grandmother was a medicine woman who was a practitioner of healing within the Navajo community. So generally, people who go to a medicine man and woman are seeking services in terms like blessing and healing with their general lives. And what a skinwalker is, from my understanding, is a person who didn't choose to follow the blessing way in the terms of the Navajo spirituality. They decided to branch off and go towards witchcraft and kind of essentially going the evil path. And these two pathways were the blessing way and a way that's not so great. Which is interesting because from what my grandmother told me is that that's never been. It wasn't always this way. I kind of mentioned that in one of my stories, that skinwalkers were originally just part of a group. They were part of, essentially, they were seen as people that had amazing gifts and She talked about, like, when the colonization of the United States was happening, skinwalkers would relay messages from between warring camps. And they had these amazing gifts in which they were able to camouflage themselves as animals and move about freely, relay messages to warring camps of where the enemy was, and it was seen and held in high regard. But my grandmother mentioned that when the colonization happened, that people started breaking up the land. People were giving things, not necessarily. It wasn't given away equally. And so a lot of people got jealous. A lot of people were looking around and seeing, oh, well, those people knew the right people, and so they just got the stuff, more stuff than we did. And so instead of bettering themselves and trying to improve themselves, they used their gifts, essentially, to try to get back at all those people. Today's last part of the upload is an update from my friend and yours, Bo. For those of you unfamiliar with who Bo is a friend and subscriber of the channel. Bo lives in New River, Tennessee. He has a small pod of squatch that live on his property. He's been attacked by a dogman on this property and watched said property, or two dogman fight for dominance on said property. Just the other day, Bo has not seen anything in a while and noticed a person on his property. Bo ran out and said, "What's up? What are you doing?" This guy is heading towards where the last dogman had been seen. Guy says, "I heard about your property from channel Jeffrey Nadolny's Dogman Encounters, and I knew right where it was. I live close by. I wanted to meet you and check it out." Bo was like, "Cool, thanks. Nice to meet you." Saw a dogman not too far from where this guy and Bo were. Bo knocked the guy down, or pushed him out of the way, and lied down on the ground and acted dead. Excuse me. I don't know. I'm going to have Bo on in about a day or two, but the quality of the recording is not great. It was just so he could share briefly what was going on while he was doing something. I didn't want him to have to drop everything. But it's pretty crazy, and I wanted you guys to hear it. Because if we're going to go out and look for these creatures, let's keep in mind that there is a lot of wild land out there, but we probably shouldn't just show up on people's land and just go exploring. I think it's kind of dangerous and kind of rude. So, anyway, here is Bo's phone call and update, and mind you, I will have him on in a couple of days to share everything that's been going on.
Me and TJ had been at the cabin as usual, my hunting, pretty frequent. And I hadn't really seen nothing crazy this year here recently. But there was a thing where the dogman had come, one of the guys had heard it and wanted to meet. So he come up and was poking around. Just so happened he walked up on the higher level where that big male walked around at, and then he heard about me from your channel. Okay. And whenever we whenever he actually come up there, he had told me that he heard it off of you, but he was there walking, and I noticed him. One of them was tracking him, and whenever he
here.
Sorry.
Well, I think you're doing several things at once. You suck at it.
But whenever he was walking up through there, he had been getting tracked by one, didn't realize it. And and he starts coming across the hill there down toward my cabin, and
Go ahead and get her out. Get her outside.
well, whenever he did, he sorry, I'm trying to get this straightened real fast.
You need a minute.
I got some. I got one. But as he was coming up down the ridge, but as we was coming up and down the ridge there, I noticed him getting tracked by one. And whenever he kept coming, he wasn't really paying attention. And I kept noticing that the Dogman was coming rather hard and fast at him. Well, as he's walking down toward me, I just tackle him to the ground. And the Dogman comes running out about that time, which really puts me in a bad spot. But from seeing them the way that they show dominance toward each other before, I put my body down, put my head down, and put into a body position of a non-threatening male.
Right.
You know, just showing him basically, look, no, I'm no threat. You know, you're the alpha. I respect that. And he kind of sniffs around at me for a second, roars, and just kind of meanders off. And dude's tripping out, yelling, screaming. And I was like, who the hell are you? Where the fuck you come from? And he's like, man, I heard about you on Jeff, Dogman encounters from Jeff. And I was like, oh yeah? Okay, cool. And he was like, I wanted to see your place because I know where New River is. I know what school you're talking about. So he come up there looking around and he about got from just not paying attention.
That's insane, man. I'm sorry that happened. Someone came on your
It's
property.
not your fault. But after that, I told him, I was like, look, man, I don't care if you want to come meet me. That's cool. Well, you know, that's fine. I don't care. Just make sure that you keep your head down and pay attention to what's going on around you, because some I might not be so close. Like I said, I know it ain't a lot, but something pretty crazy. But I hate to jump and run so fast.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll text you here shortly.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you a little more about this. I apologize. And tell TJ I said hi. Happy New Year to you guys and the kid. And stay well, okay?
Why I turned stuff off. Sorry, say again?
Oh, I just said say happy New Year to TJ and the kids, and just stay well. Text me when you're not busy, all right, buddy?
All right, sounds good.
All right.
I gotta get the stuff there and bring it off the Suburban or the.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I want to apologize for being completely exhausted again today. I did a 2-hour live stream with my friend John Bell today, and I haven't been really sleeping good lately. I don't know what's going on. Some issues or something. I think I'm going to make an appointment to my doctor and get a checkup, because I shouldn't be this tired all the time, or not sleeping, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to get this out and hopefully go to bed so I can be recouped in the morning and give you one hell of an upload tomorrow. Thanks, guys.